Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to part three of the Black sitcom episodes that changed the game. This your boy Reg in the building. So honestly, this took me longer than I expected to drop. I'm literally just recording this as we speak, the last week of February, last week of Black History Month, because I really wanted to finish this up on Black History Month and everything, because I'm behind on a few reviews and everything like that too. But yeah, man. So this one, out of all the episodes in this series, this is the one I was kind of going back and forth with because while the first episode focused on the 70s and the 80s, and the second episode focused primarily on the 90s, this one I kind of just pushed all the 2000s, 20 teens, and a few 2020 episodes here because I'm gonna be real with you. Now you know me, I'm a very critical, but there was a lot of quote unquote black sitcoms around certain period, like in the mid to late 2000s, that I'm not saying I did not like, but it didn't really do anything for me. Or the best way to put it is like it was made for a particular. It was made primarily for a particular demographic, and They try to shoehorn it, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not gonna see like shows like One on One here and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, it's just like I definitely studied a lot of these episodes I put on this list and stuff like that too. Most of the shows I put on this list I liked. The ones I didn't, and that's one thing I just want to also mention too. Just because I didn't put a show on the list does not mean I don't like the show. I really just wanted to focus on the episodes that had an impact, not just for the black community, just for pop culture as well too. So without further ado, let's get this started with the first episode, and this one is definitely a treat. So the first episode is the girlfriend's episode Trick or Truth. This episode came out October 29th, 2001. Um, One of my all-time favorite episodes of the show, maybe my favorite. So this episode pretty much came out during the early second season, which honestly I'll probably have to say is my favorite season next to the third season. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to girlfriends, the first four, maybe five seasons were gold. Anything after maybe season five, I was kind of with it. And of course, when the show went to CW, that's another story for a different day. But that's going to be a whole other video. So the early second season pretty much happened because Tony and Joan, played respectively by Jill Marie Jones and Tracy Ellis Ross. They were beefing because Tony. Let's just be real. Tony was a very complicated character and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? It's like she tries to do good, but at the same time, she's just really all the friends were messy, but Tony was just the messiest one. And she had told people about Joan's business, her sex life, and Joan pretty much Joan pretty much just said she was done with the friendship and everything. You know what I'm saying? So she wasn't talking for 24 days, and then the Halloween special happened. And long story short, Tony was just going through it because, for one, you know, she had to really she had to really like avoid Joan and stuff like that. You had Maya and Lynn, trying to sneak around hanging out with Tony to hang out with Joan. We've all seen sitcoms like this before when one friend's mad at each other and everything like that too, and then the other friend can't know that they're mad and stuff too. You know what I'm saying? So it's we've all seen episodes like that before and shoot. You know what I'm saying? So next thing you know it, next thing you know it, what happened? What happened? What happened? So Tony ends up trying to get back with Greg, and everything was going up with Greg, and Greg pretty much, played her because she made Tony buy a $500 pumpkin. Okay, I'm sorry, and I've never actually bought a pumpkin for Halloween, but I refuse to believe pumpkins cost $500. and everything like that too. But it was a big ass pumpkin though. I ain't gonna hold you, but then Greg came and pretty much was having sex with a girl just to get back at Tony and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? So this sends Tony over the edge, and so she comes into Joan's party because Joan was having some Halloween party and everything like that too, and Joan didn't want anything to do with her, which honestly I can't blame her. So Lynn, William, and Maya tries to get them to talk to one another. Tony's having like declined credit cards and stuff like that, maybe because she bought that $500 pumpkin, but I digress. But then the most powerful scene happened and everything like that too when they were in church and Joan was feeling the word and the friends pretty much follow her and Tony once again tries to apologize to Joan. Long story short, you know what I'm saying? And Joan says that she appreciates the apology, but she can't go back. She can't really go back to being her friend. So Tony pretty much was just giving up. So she goes up because when they in church and everything like that too, they said somebody come up, we can make a special prayer for you. So she goes up and crying and everything like that. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention Donnie McClurkin. He played the pastor. I forgot to mention. And Joan was just like, you know what? She can't do it. She's in church. So she goes up there and just holds Tony's hand and stuff like that too. Holds Tony's hand and the look on Jill Mary Jones' face when she felt Joan hold her hand and stuff like that too was just phenomenal acting. Was just phenomenal acting and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And I personally feel that out of all the episodes of Girlfriends, that episode pretty much was like the best the best definition when it comes to Joan and Tony's friendship and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely I definitely love that episode, and I definitely feel like that episode should be one that if you even have never seen the episode of Girlfriends, watch that one. Yeah, this is it. So with this next episode, I'm going to do something different. I'm actually going to talk about each part separately compared to what I did with the Good Times episode, The Big Move. And the episode we're going to talk about is the Bernie Mac show, Sweet Home Chicago. This aired May 15, 2002. So I'm going to start with part one. So part one, Bernie is angry. Well, first of all, let me just say, the Bernie Mac show is like one of the all-time greats, in my opinion. And I feel like that show definitely captured the whole blended family, trying to learn navigate being blended families and everything like that too. And of course, Bernie Mac playing a fictionalized version of himself kind of gives a little bit of like Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of vibes, but at the same time does not go as raunchy as the Curb Your Enthusiasm because it's still network. It's still well, it was Fox, but at that time Fox was really becoming. It wasn't really the edgier Fox like from the late '80s and the '90s and everything like that too. But not saying that this show was soft though, because this show definitely was funny as hell. But like this episode, Sweet Home Chicago, is definitely one of the probably the best episode of the show. And Bernie comes home angry and everything like that too. And he ends up angry somebody ate his chicken. So Wanda then tells him that one of his relatives has died. It's like his uncle and everything like that too. Now hold on to that thought. So he makes plans to go to Chicago, and Vanessa's excited too because now she wants to go see her mom. So already we got very strong character based work. already from the get go. So as they went to Chicago, they met all the family and everything like that too. And then they have this one cousin that was played by Don Cheadle and whatnot too, you know what I'm saying? Now, you guys know I'm a huge fan of Don Cheadle and stuff, comedy, drama. But yeah, this might be one of the few times on the show where Bernie Mac actually gets overshadowed and everything like that too, because and I feel like he also overshadowed Will Smith in that episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel Air, the Sweet Homeboy episode and stuff too. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man. So he pretty much was just doing the most and everything like that too. Wants to turn one of the old churches into a strip club or a club or whatever, and shit like that too. And then he's like one of those. He is definitely one of those relatives. He is definitely one of those relatives that you have to love. You love, but you have to communicate from a distance and shit. You know what I'm saying? So then there's the funeral scene, and Bernie, and again, the cousin is pretty much doing the most and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? He's talk about strip clubs. He wants to have like a gold casket like Biggie, cousin D. Yeah, cousin D. That's his name. Um, and next thing you know, Bernie just goes off and everything like that too. Bernie just goes off. But the thing about it was, the Reverend was just like, "Does anybody have anything to say about the deceased?" And then when cousin D says some stupid shit, he just goes off talking about, "Oh, you ever dare your life with that?" Yeah, and he just goes off on cousin D. But then I think his aunt was like, "You know what? It was Don't worry about it, because I would have definitely done the same thing too." So part one is probably the more comedically geared compared to part two. Stay tuned on that. And I definitely love this because it captures the realistic aspect when it comes to like funerals or weddings. How is a reason why certain family members don't really communicate or don't really talk as much and stuff. So I felt like that captured the realistic, in my opinion, that captured the most realistic aspect when it comes to that. So that highly recommended. Moving on, we got part two. While part one was the more comedic, part two definitely was its dramatic beats. Now, granted, part two also had some comedic beats. The hot dog scene where Bernie was trying to get let Beyond and try the hot dog always makes me laugh and everything. But part two focuses more on Vanessa trying to find her mom, aka Bernie's sister, because I forgot to mention in part one when they went to go see the rehab, when they went to go to the rehab, she was gone and everything. So Vanessa was trying to find her, but then she ends up meeting up some of her old friends. Now, the old friends was like talking, and then there's always that one friend where it's like that you think she's a celebrity now that you live in California. So they end up fighting, and next thing you know it, they end up fighting and stuff like that. They rough her up pretty bad. And so the scene when Vanessa was on the streets of Chicago, you know what I'm saying, and trying to like look for a mom, and then they have Bill Withers' song "Ain't No Sunshine" playing in the background, was definitely hard to watch, in my opinion. That might be one of the most top. This is actually my favorite episode of the show, and it's also like one of Camille Winbush's best performances on the show too, which I honestly feel like was very underrated as an actress and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? And so Bernie ends up meeting her, and they talk. They have that moment, which I feel like this was the moment that their relationship took a different turn. They were still arguing. They still had their disagreements, but if you notice that after the first season, they were more like adversaries. It's like with some episodes they were thinking the same way, but some episodes, Bernie has to realize that Vanessa is growing up. And that's one thing I've always loved about this show is the fact that it shows the steps that Bernie and Wanda were taking as parents, and it shows the steps how Jordan, Vanessa, and Brianna were taking to live a nuclear blended family and stuff like that too. So that's just definitely a show I have to talk about in the future. Rest in peace to Bernie Mac. But the best scene of the whole show was when he realized he got a letter, which was his updated birth certificate. His uncle was actually his dad. And again, the look that Bernie made at the last scene when he was sitting in the chair, he talks to America and everything like that too. You know what? I'm just gonna let y'all see for that for yourselves. Stellar episode, classic. All right, now we're gonna go to probably one of the biggest surprises on the list. That's So Raven with Country Cousins. This episode, this episode came out July 29th, 2005. That's So Raven. Honestly, one of my favorite shows from this period, believe it or not. You know what I'm saying? Disney Channel. Let me tell you something. When this show came out, it was big. People forget how big That So Raven was at that time and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's crazy because this was another two-part episode. But in comparison to the Bernie Mac episode, I'm just going to talk about this two-parter solely into one and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? So first of all, let me just say, Raven Simone was one of the most best and most charismatic stars ever. The way how she carried that show, the physical comedy, like you can tell she took stuff from like the Eddie Murphy school and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Because at first, I always say she was more influenced by Martin with the costume changes, but then at the same time too, Martin was sort of influenced by Eddie Murphy, so he's one of his influence. So, and then Raven was also on Doctor Doolittle and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, and like me growing up watching Raven and Chelsea doing some weird physical comedy, like they were my me going, they were my like Lucy and Ethel and shit like that. So Country Cousins was a big episode because technically in production code, it was actually the first episode that they made it past the whole 65 episode mark. Because you got to remember, certain Disney shows, they didn't really want to go past 65 episodes, but That's So Raven was so big. That was the first Disney show to make it past 65 episodes. So they just said, fuck that rule and stuff like that, too. You know what I'm saying? So Raven decides to go to the country to see the country cousins and everything like that, too. And long story short, you had Raven pretty much playing the majority of the family, like the grandmama, the the sketchy cousin, the baby, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And then you also had Kim Whitley. You also had Kim Whitley in the episode too. You know what I'm saying? And what's the other actress's name? What's that other actress's name? Giovanni Samuels as well too, who ironically ended up being on another Disney show, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, during like the last season and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? So the cousins don't feel some kind of way about Raven. Well, not really Raven in general, but their dad, because they feel like their dad stole a family heirloom, which is like a gravy boat and everything like that too. So that's why they didn't really come down to the city like that. So then the cousin, played by Giovanni, I think her name was like Betty Jean or something like that. Yeah, Betty Jane. Um, she pretty much don't really fuck with Raven like that either and stuff like that too. And she was trying to do everything to sabotage, bad mouth on the daddy. And think about it, this is a Disney show, and it's kind of talking about Family Feud and gender and societal wars and stuff like that too, which is kind of very bold for Disney to really talk about and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Because yeah, and honestly, Raven pretty much showed some of her like best physical comedy on the show, playing all these characters and stuff. But then the ending, she has a vision and everything like that too. And she realized that her cousin Betty Jane and her hid the gravy boat because when they were little, they were so close and everything like that too. And then growing up, they drifted apart because this supposed gravy boat got stolen. And if you really want to take the comedy away, it's actually a pretty deep episode if you really think about it and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely feel like this episode, I definitely feel like this episode is a favorite. It's a favorite of mine and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I definitely love what the message they're trying to do. Like we're family no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So the subplot, even with Corey and Eddie, you know, Corey kind of taking advantage of Eddie's like mentorship and stuff like that too. Because you know, at that time Corey was wilding at that time. So yeah, man, very dope episode. Love it. All right, moving on. We got the Boondocks with Trial of R. Kelly. This episode came out November 13th, 2005. We've already talked about the Boondocks. I mean, classic show. Aaron Magruder, you know, he did his thing on that show and stuff like that too. Originated as a comic strip and stuff, but then it ended up being a show on its own. You know what I'm saying? Ran on Adult Swim for 4 seasons, even though the last season we don't really talk about. But the first season alone is my favorite season of the show. And already while the first episode, the Garden Party, establishes the characters and whatnot too. You know what I'm saying? Hold on one second. Establishes the characters. I definitely feel like the first great episode was the trial of R. Kelly. And God knows I wonder why I talked about this episode on the list. So let's talk about it. All right, so there's so many things we can dissect with this episode. Celebrity worship, the hypocrisy on white black crimes and everything like that too. The mixed reception on separating the music from the art. I mean, well, the art from the person, excuse me. I mean, this episode alone deserves a video by itself and everything like that too. So the story starts with Huey, Riley, and Granddad. Huey and Riley being played by Virginia King, Granddad being played by the late great John Witherspoon, watching the trial. Well, watching a news report on R. Kelly coming to trial and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And Huey and Riley decides to go to the trial because you know Riley being an R. Kelly supporter, and Huey just feel like justice has to be served one way or another. Mind you, this is the first appearance of the Dubois family, like Tom, Jasmine, and Sarah. You know what I'm saying? And long story short, Tom was the district attorney trying to put R. Kelly in jail. But then you had R. Kelly's lawyer being played by the late great Adam West. You know what I'm saying? He pretty much he's pretty much just like saying like, yeah, R. Kelly, he's talented. This is just this is just taking down the black person and stuff like that too, you know what I'm saying? So he tries to flip the script on Tom, saying that Tom hates black people because he married a white wife and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Hold on one second. So yeah, sorry about that again. So yeah, so this pretty much turns everyone's backs on Tom and everything. The subplot, you had Granddad and Uncle Ruckus talking about the R. Kelly trial, and Uncle Ruckus again, you have more character from him. He's talking about how you can't compare somebody like R. Kelly to Jerry Lee Lewis, mind you. Jerry Lee Lewis not only married a 13-year-old or whatever, that was actually his cousin. But again, this episode deserves a video on its own and everything like that. So you know what I'm saying? So then the best thing was when Huey got up and said that, yeah, R. Kelly is talented, but at the end of the day, the nigga needs some help. If y'all fans of his music, why don't y'all get him some help and everything like that too? You know what I'm saying? So it ends up with his monologue summarizing summarizing how, yeah, long story short, excuse me, long story short, we may get tired of our antics, but at the same time, niggas are family and stuff like that too. We can't blame the white man for everything. Now he has to say, "What are we saying?" So, what am I saying? So, again, this was the episode I feel took the show, made people realize that yeah, this was not a regular show. We going to talk about some shit. We going to attack everybody. And speaking of the Boondocks, one, two, three, four, five, six. Okay, here we go. There we go. All right, so the Boondocks. We still on the first season. We're going to talk about the return of Dr. King. This episode aired January 15, 2006. So, oh wow, another mind blowing episode. So this episode is sort of like a dream slash a what if episode, if that makes sense, and everything like that too. If Martin Luther King would have survived that gunshot wound in 1968, and he was in a coma for about 30 years. So he came back into the world, and the whole world is very different from what it used to be, and stuff like that too. And then it goes to what the genius part about the time this episode is the timeline. It goes up until like 2001, 2002, where he made comments about Al Qaeda, how we should forgive the enemy, and that pretty much makes him a public enemy number one. So then fast forward to present day, Huey is actually trying to get a book signing from Martin Luther King Jr. Little did he know that Granddad knew Martin Luther King Jr. and they were part of the whole civil rights movement. So this led to more of Granddad's backstory being revealed, that he was actually in the Montgomery bus boycott with Rosa Parks, and he felt that Rosa Parks stole his shine and everything. Keep in mind, Rosa Parks pretty much passed away a few months before this episode came out, so that was pretty bold and everything. And it wasn't making fun of Rosa Parks. It was just Granddad, feeling some kind of way and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? By the way, we did a review on the Boondocks years ago, so y'all check that episode out. And so Martin Luther King Jr. wants to do something again to pretty much like bring that positivity back and everything. So Huey was thinking about doing like a political party, a new black-based political party. But Martin Luther King unknowingly booked like a party promoter, and of course, you know the whole story. Like when every time you do something good, it turns into a party at the end of the day. And so Martin Luther King gives out a speech of how we all acting like niggas and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? He just goes down the line about things that's degrading the black people, like from BET, Soul Plane, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And so certain changes started happening and stuff like that too. And keep in mind, like this episode aired in 2006, and this was like years before the whole George Floyd protest, years before Black Lives Matter and whatnot too. And the whole what if scenario was just very brilliantly done. A lot of sharp dialogue came out and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely feel like that episode definitely deserves a spot on its own. You know what I'm saying? Classic. One, two, three. Let's get busy. Oh, Mahogany? I haven't seen that movie in years. Ooh, I know what I'm gonna watch tonight. All right, moving on. We're gonna go into Everybody Hates Chris with Kwanzaa. Everybody Hates Kwanzaa episode. This episode aired December 10th, 2007. Now, I have a confession to make. The Boondocks episodes and the Everybody Hates Chris episode, and another episode I'm going to mention where the definite episodes that I wanted to add when it came to this series and stuff like that too, when it came to like the 2000s to present day. And this episode from Everybody Hates Chris is definitely a very strong episode when it comes to like the setting and of course character. So Chris has a homework assignment where he has to do something charitable during the holiday season. So he was really just going to volunteer in the soup kitchen, just try to do something quick so he can enjoy his holiday. But then he sees Kill Moves and everything, you know what I'm saying? And Kill Moves pretty much, was talking about how he wants to go see his mother and stuff like that too, you know what I'm saying? Because it's been a while since he's seen his mother and he wants to see her for the holiday season. Now, this is something that's very interesting about the Kill Moves character. The Kill Moves character, which was played by Jarvis Poindexter, you know what I'm saying? He's pretty much like the homeless kind of off kind of guy and everything like that too, who will just come on a scene or two as like a quick joke. He might say a funny line or two and then he'll disappear and everything. But this episode was probably the first truly episode that's centered really on him and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? So Chris tries to go find his mom and stuff like that too. And long and behold, his mom is played by Felicia Rashad. Yes, you got sitcom royalty up in here. Now, hold that thought because for one, I have to charge my laptop, and two, I'm gonna talk about why the episode is called its title in the first place. So Julius didn't get his holiday bonus this year, so he didn't have a lot of money for holiday presents. So he was talking to Risky, and he was no, not Risky. He was talking to JB Smooth's character and everything like that too, which I forgot his name. I might make an edit post shooting this video, and long and behold, he was going to celebrate Kwanzaa, and at this time Kwanzaa was still a relatively new holiday and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really too big on Kwanzaa. I'm gonna be real with you, but that's another story for a different day. So he encourages the family to celebrate Kwanzaa and everything like that too, and pretty much, it's a good lesson on the Kwanzaa spirit, and I do like the fact that they mentioned Kwanzaa because I think another show that mentioned Kwanzaa was Proud Family, and they did a very good Christmas slash Kwanzaa special. The OG Proud Family, not this preachy doing too much reboot and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Um, so back to the Christmas story, and the reason why I said this is a best story for setting was because Kilmu's you it was revealed that Kilmu's had a like successful job. He was well educated. He was playing piano. But Ronald Reagan, once he came into office, he starts cutting down on jobs and everything like that too. And so he just pretty much lost all contact with his mom. And it's kind of a sad story and everything like that too, you know what I'm saying? But again, the show still kept its, its funny, edgy tone and stuff like that too, you know what I'm saying? So very, very, very strong episode. I feel the Kwanzaa sub it's like I feel like both plots was equally attuned to one another and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Tyler James Williams definitely did his thing on that episode as well, you know what I'm saying? So must watch. So now we're gonna go to a huge jump into the 20 teens. Again, it was not a lot of stuff I can really pick and stuff like that from 2000s, but 20 teens, things got a little bit better. We are gonna go into this underrated and unfairly canceled show, the Carmichael show that aired on NBC and stuff like that too. Yeah, a black sitcom on NBC post '90s. Go figure. But yeah, this show was pretty good. The cast was very solid from Gerard Carmichael, David Allen Greer, Loretta Devine, um, Amber Stevens West. I mean, you had pretty much Lil Rel and Tiffany Haddish, who were pretty much at the midst of the breakthroughs of their careers and stuff like that too. And I'm gonna be real with you. I had my doubts on this show because this show pretty this show definitely carried on the Norman Lear traditions, but at the same time, it had a more contemporary view of the black view and everything like that too. Especially in comparison, I feel like this show was the nighttime at Blackish was the daytime, and I'm gonna get into Blackish because spoiler alert, I want to talk about Blackish in the next episode. So this episode aired during the second season and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And this episode pretty much has a controversial story and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Where Carmichael is hyped and everything like that too, and he's telling his girl that he got tickets. His girl, her character's name, blah, 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 Maxine, that she got tickets to a comedian, and she looks at the tickets and she's like, "Oh hell no!" Long story short, it's Bill Cosby tickets. You know what I'm saying? And Gerard, he's so hyped because he always loved Bill Cosby and everything like that too. And keep in mind, this episode aired in 2016. This was during the whole Bill Cosby scandal, which I don't want to bring that on this channel. Y'all know it. And he tells his parents that, and his parents were looking at him like, I don't know about this, son. I don't know. But then you had Tiffany Haddish's character, Nakisha. She's pretty much just like, what did he do? And this leads to probably the funniest scene in the whole episode where she looks up his Wikipedia. She looks up his Wikipedia and she pretty much was all like, oh wow, and stuff like that too. And I always say that this episode was like this. I compare this to the Boondocks' The Trial of R. Kelly because it also talks about like the separating the art from the scandal and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And whether you want to believe what you want to believe and stuff like that, this was definitely a bold way to. This I think the second episode of the second season and stuff like that too. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually filmed this episode first and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, this was definitely a very bold episode. The Carmichael show I wish could have had a longer run than 3 seasons and stuff like that too. But I think they do have the show. I think the show is out on DVD. I know it sometimes appears on streaming here and there and stuff like that, but if you guys can find the show and stuff like that, watch it. Definitely a very funny black comedy kind of show. Alrighty, alrighty. So now we're gonna move on to Blackish, the Blackish episode Juneteenth. You know what I'm saying? This is the fourth season premiere of the show. You know what I'm saying? And like I mentioned with the Carmichael show, Blackish was pretty much like the daytime and everything like that too. Because when I think Blackish, I think of a lot how a lot of black entertainment evolved post Obama being elected and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like what I mean by that was that a lot of the black entertainment, whether it be like a movie or a show and everything like that too, most of the time you can tell that they were trying to, of course, cater to their respective audiences. But then, of course, with Obama being elected, and of course, we were doing, oh, yes, we can, and certain black media and certain black entertainment evolved and wanted to actually forward the definition, also forward the art form. I definitely feel like post '08, post '09, there was always something that, yeah, we can cater to our audience, but at the end of the day, we have to do something so we can make other people do something so we can make other people not be afraid of us. Blackish is the perfect example of that show. I know what you guys are saying, like, nigga, what the fuck you talking about? Well, here's the thing. It's like the title of the show alone, Blackish, a black man marrying a mixed girl and stuff like that. We know with Jewish heritage and stuff like that too. But at the end of the day, you have Dre still trying to uphold his black identity and have his kids sometimes forcing the message onto his kids. Well, the kids sometimes was like, well, why can't we do something like this? You know what I'm saying? Like it kind of reminds me of like Family Ties, like a little bit, like the earliest seasons where you have Steven and Elise being like these liberals, and then of course you have the kids like Alex and Mallory and Jennifer being more conservative. They had that early setup and everything like that too. But of course, Blackish did it through more of like a black perspective in a way. And I feel like the episode Juneteenth was probably the most important episode of the show in terms of like the pop culture because this episode made June 19th a national holiday in a way. You know what I'm saying? So the family are watching this play and everything with Jack and Diane. I think they were like it was like a slavery kind of play or whatever, and they didn't like what they saw because of course them being in a white school, a predominantly white school to be exact. You know what I'm saying? They felt like sometimes their messages get sidelined and stuff like that too. So next you know it, Dre is in his work office and he's telling people about Juneteenth and everything like that too. And the episode does a good job with like balancing like the comedy and the narratively preachiness, which I would allow in this case, mixing it with like the music and everything like that too, and have the music would tell stories about what Juneteenth was. And it's definitely culturally introspective because it's like how the slaves used music to tell their own stories about freedom and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely felt like they definitely hit a high note with that episode and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And oh, it was actually, of course, Columbus Day, not slave was Columbus Day and everything, the inaccuracies and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely feel like this episode was one of the main reasons why Juneteenth was becoming a national holiday and everything like that too. And yeah, very dope episode. All right, we almost out of here, y'all. We almost out of here because I have been working on this shit for months, and I got two more episodes to talk about. So now we're gonna go into the Atlanta episode, Teddy Perkins. You know what I'm saying? This was on the second season and stuff like that. This episode is definitely probably the best episode on this episode. You know what I'm saying? So Atlanta, the show that was Donald Glover's show, Donald and Stephen Glover's. You know what I'm saying? One of the best TV shows I've ever seen and everything. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it picked up where the Boondocks left off, in my opinion. You know, the show talking about Earn, trying to live his life in Atlanta and everything like that too, and then managing his cousin Alfred, aka Paperboy, played by the brilliant Brian Tyree Henry. You know what I'm saying? And then also, he has to deal with like his other friends like Darius. You know what I'm saying? Who's played by Lakeith Stansfield. Earns on and again, off again girlfriend played by Zazie Beats and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this whole show was amazing and everything like that too. And I feel like it was just good all the way throughout. Definitely a show that I'm going to talk about in a sitcom retrospective, hopefully before the year is over, in my opinion and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Um, so Teddy Perkins was an episode that, again, the second season was wild as fuck. The whole concept of that season was like Robin season, where somebody was end up getting robbed out of something and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? And believe it or not, Donald Glover was actually inspired by Tiny Toons, the Tiny Toons movie How I Spent My Summer Vacation, when he was doing this season and stuff like that too. Like, and you guys know how much I fucking love Tiny Toons. Y'all know how much I fucking love that show and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So I just recently found that out, and I'm just like, wow, that actually explains a lot. So Teddy Perkins and everything. This episode aired. It was the sixth episode of the second season. Darius was trying to get this piano, and he answered a Craigslist ad. So he travels into like this weird mansion, and he meets a man by the name of Teddy Perkins. You know what I'm saying? Which was pretty much Donald Glover in a white face. And he just Darius, he's like amazed what he sees, and Teddy Perkins is talking in riddles and stuff like that too. And he claims that, and he starts talking about his brother Benny, and Benny was like this like famous musician, and he had to take care of him because I think Darius peeked through the door and he saw him and stuff like that too. So yeah, so he has to take care of him. So he still wants to get his piano, but Teddy's like doing all these weird games with him and stuff like that too. So when he finally got the piano and everything like that too, um, he knows that Teddy's car was blocking him, so he goes back inside, and Teddy is watching this video about his father. Teddy is watching this video about how his father was abusing him while he was trying to learn how to play the piano and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And so he just goes through a whole breakdown and whatnot. And Darius is trying to let Teddy know that your dad does love you. He just has a hard way of expressing it and whatnot too. But then, long and behold, Teddy realized that he pretty much wants to kill Darius and Benny and stuff like that too, and stage it as a home invasion and stuff like that too. But then next thing you know it, Benny comes out through the elevator and stuff like that, and not only does he kill Teddy, but he kills himself and stuff like that too. So pretty much like Darius ends up getting in trouble because the police ends up taking the corpse and the piano and whatnot too. You know what I'm saying? And then it's ironic too because the song opens and ends with Stevie Wonder's songs. It opens with the song "Sweet Little Girl," which I want to say that was on the Way I'm Coming From album. I want to say that was on the Way I'm Coming From album. If I make a mistake, I'll make an edit. But then it ended up with "Evil," the song "Evil," which I think that was also on the Where I'm Coming From album. Which Where I'm Coming From is such a underrated album from Stevie Wonder. That to me is the true beginning of his classic period, if you ask me. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man. So this episode definitely this episode definitely references the traumas that child stars face when it comes to like controlling and abusive parents. And the main getaway people got from this was like Michael Jackson, of course, Marvin Gaye and stuff like that too. Especially when it came, especially when it came to like Teddy being shot and everything. You know what I'm saying? Because Marvin Gaye during the last year of his life moved back to his parents to take care of them, and Teddy was taking care of Benny and everything like that too. It's kind of a morbid way of thinking about it and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? When this episode came out, the hype with this episode, people were talking about this episode. Like they had like lectures on this episode and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Like this whole episode is definitely a very, very, very strong episode. And in my opinion, the best episode of Atlanta, period. You know what I'm saying? Again, this is a show I have to talk about. This is a show I have to talk about in the future and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Atlanta, Teddy Perkins. And finally, the final episode on this list in the series is Abbott Elementary with the episode Dad Fight. Now, Abbott Elementary is like one of the recent leading sitcoms right now when it comes to entertainment. It's received hella accolades. This was the brainchild of the talented Quinta Brunson and everything like that too. They have a very dope cast. You have people like Tyler James Williams, of course, from Everybody Hates Chris fame, Cheryl Lee Ralph from Moesha fame, Janelle James, dope comedian, just to name a few, Lisa Ann Walter. So this episode actually aired, and it's the most recent episode on this list, November 5th, 2024. And this episode talks about how Gregory was bonding with this child, and he gives this child a pen. I think he wanted a pen and stuff like that. And the dad pretty much feels some kind of way about that. You know what I'm saying? And the dad was all like, "Oh, I don't want you giving my son a pen. That's my job and everything like that too." You're not pretty much wants to start a fight with him and everything like that too over that shit. So Gregory, he pretty much, is in a situation where he's like, he don't want to fight him. He feels like he just wants to talk to him and reason it out with him. But then everybody say, yeah, you should really fight him because like he's really making you feel like a bitch and everything. But then Janine was right by his side and everything like that too. And honestly, what I liked about this episode was this was not about the pen. This was really just about the insecurities the boy's dad had about him losing his spot in his life, the little boy's life and everything. So I definitely feel like this is definitely I definitely feel like this is definitely a very strong episode of Alabama Elementary and everything like that too. And I'm glad the show's still going strong. So yeah. So thank y'all so much for watching this whole series about the black sitcom episode that changed the game. And this definitely took me about a couple months to really do and everything. You know what I'm saying? That's why I've been kind of slowed down on a few reviews. I've been trying to do like a lot of different stuff, and plus I got a lot of stuff going on in my life. But yeah, man, this was definitely fun. If you guys really want me to do black drama episodes, let me know and stuff like that, I'll probably consider that in the future and everything like that too. It probably won't be, of course, whenever I drop this video. I'm really going to drop this like mid-March and everything. But if you guys want me to do that, let me know in the comments and stuff like that too. And I hope y'all have a great day. Peace.